Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's directing people, and everybody's got a first name, so when they're screaming at each other, there's no slip up, about what they're saying to each other. And they just, sneak around, and then bam, jump on these guys, kill them, run down the street of this little village, which is just like logs and planks. It's just like a very primitive place. Turn the corner, and then bam, they come across another group of guys, and then, they have to fight them and kill them, and then bam, next group, then finally they get to the final, that is the main force, and they're a little worn out, but they got some momentum going, and they bam, charge right into them. Now these boys are right in the middle of it, so you have the camera really just try to focus on the kids, that are running through the city. They're surrounded by men. Ideally, I'm going to want short guys, because the idea of malnourishment. So like they get my guys appearing, they're like, oh wow, they're so well nourished. But with fighters any size, because if they have a diet, they have a diet. But yeah, these kids they've been learning to fight for a couple weeks, and now here they are in a battle, and now they're coming up face to face as real soldiers. And so what happens? They get their asses kicked. And just push back, and it's just like and they realize that right away, and it's a scramble to get away as quickly as they can, and just get help. And so that, that's what's going to happen. I'll tell the actors that. The actors are going to, they should by this point know, because they're going to hopefully read the book. But it's like, guess what, guys? You have to either survive or die, on this. But realize too, you can't just hide. You have to actually fight. You actually have to be there, because if you don't help, that's just like, giving the enemy a win, so don't, always try to fight, just, don't get killed in the process. And yeah, I just think, that'd be pretty neat. That'd be pretty neat to film that. So, but yeah, it's an idea. Well, I'm hinting at it, so this is kind of my idea for what I'm going to do with the story I'm writing. I think it could make it into a franchise, and the way I would start is, finish writing the first book, see how well the reaction that gets, and do the fan interaction thing, and then see how people would like the idea of, well, what if we made this into a comic book? And the setting for the comic book would be kind of like how I was suggesting, like an inner city, high school setting. In particular, like urban black youth, in particular, just like a heavy focus on that, because one of the ideas that I'm kind of playing around with in this is that this group of kids, they're a gang, and it's why I find it more interesting if you make it more blatant and more like realistic in the subject matter, which is kind of a Josh Whedon, Buffy the Vampire Slayer approach. So that's why when I say imagine Josh Whedon is directing this, that's the idea. If the comic book was successful, then the next step would be either to make a movie, which I have an idea for in my mind as well, and that but then it's just a single event, and I think though that if we can do it right, the single event would capture all these neat ideas and elements. These guys are in school, they're going to this other world, they're fighting epic battles, they're chasing women, and their lives are at risk. And the conclusion for the book is going to be the conclusion for the movie as well. So that's and this, when you see it, when you read it, you're like, wow. So at least I hope you say wow. But then if it was made into a TV show, that's like I was saying earlier, get some sophomores who know how to fight with swords, in particular, but really they have some weapons training, and just make a casting call for people, and either base it out of New York or maybe go to Canada and use their go to one of their major cities, because that would probably be cheaper and a little bit easier to film then, because set wise, that's the other thing is I'm just thinking about simple sets. to use. Like there would be some stuff that needed to be built, that would need to be built, and in particular that's like a village to begin with, and then yeah, towards the end of the first season, it would the guys would end up in a city. So somehow or other, you got to make a city, and that's why I'm also thinking that potentially you could film this in Europe, and I almost kind of want to say do that, because what's going to end up happening is that you're going to have armies marching around, and for armies, when you watch sci-fi, how do they do armies? Well, they just get 20 guys and then film them over and over again. So it wouldn't be too hard to get size, but there's certain locations which yes, you can use blue screen and construct the location around the guys, but in particular, I kind of want to have like real locations, and like real cities that lived and functioned, and just have these guys running around in them. The way the filming would work is kind of like guerrilla style, I want to say, and the other thing is that I want to make it as kind of reality based, So the main characters, I need them to stay alive, to just carry on the story for the first season. But after that, I'm going to start adding characters, and let characters start dying off. If that's what happens. So it's going to, it's going to be up to me as the writer for this to figure out, like, okay, well, how do I keep these guys alive? And how can I have certain situations, or what situations can I get these guys involved in, and that'll keep them alive. And that will make it interesting, because as we saw with 300, they were just running around, and they added the blood and injury effects later on. So yeah, you have a bunch of guys standing around, or like when you have a battle, you have guys on roofs with cameras and filming the whole battle as it takes place. And all or like all the characters would know is that, well, this is the steps that we're going to take, and you would break down each battle into different parts, and really just focus around this team, the group of kids. So I would imagine that with a group of kids who are going to be doing their own stunts, by the way, mostly, then you're going to have the kill team. And the kill team is just a group of guys who they're going to regularly train with the kids, maybe, but they're going to train with each other. They're going to know what they're doing, and what's going to be important is that they're going to have to be able to adjust their level of ability accordingly. So that's something that's important. These guys would also be these guys would get involved with the stars themselves pretty regularly, because one of the other aspects they have is that these kids are always going and learning from veterans, from experienced fighters, how to fight. So they spar them, and they learn the tricks of the trade from them. Each battle would, I almost want to say, I kind of want to leave it up to the kids themselves. The idea is that all the characters are going to be the first names of the actors as well, for simplicity. And it's understood that you survive if it's understood that it's up to the characters, the actors, that if you have to train on your own, basically it's what how you behave in real life is going to kind of affect how your character is going to be portrayed in some ways, and in some literal ways. So if the kid is just not that good of a fighter, then he's just not that good of a fighter, and he'll be eliminated in one way or another. And in some cases, if the kid is a good fighter to a point, and you can't go really reach beyond that point, well, then you write that in the story as well. And as I've written in, just some of the guys, they don't agree with the fighting, they can't handle it, or they're afraid. Well, then they're kept in, and they're added as sparring partners and as mules. They carry equipment around the trade. The other aspect, like the way the series would work, in my opinion, is that there's no real editing. There's no real episodes to it. It's just you would have however many episodes as you want, from basically